I'm starting to understand deeper as I grow as a person, that you reap what you sow. And when I say that, I don't mean that in necessarily an external conflict or in an external context, because I feel that, every opportunity or every moment is an opportunity for change. But I really just think that in an internal sense, we reap what we sow. And when I say that, I really mean to just say that really what we put into our minds is what we get out in the world. And what we put into our minds is what we get out of our minds as well. So I just think it's really important that we really are just conscious of what we're putting into our minds. And I feel like a lot of the times it could even be the things that we don't think about that could have the most profound impact on us. Because something that I found with myself is that, sometimes when I'm going to sleep at night, I could just imagine, or I could almost just like hear in my head things that were completely insignificant, things that I wasn't even paying attention to, that happened earlier in the day, whether it be a song or something like that. So I think it's just really important that we're conscious of what we're putting into our minds, because that's really what we get out in the world. Because even the smallest things that you see, I think it could have a profound impact on how you act, even subconsciously, not even in a conscious context. But I think along with that, it just requires us to be conscious of what we're putting into our minds and really what we're allowing ourselves to be influenced by. Because I think that it's important to be mendable by what's around you, because then you could really leverage that so that you could get to where you want to go. But I also think it's important that we're also solid in a sense, to the point that, if you do find yourself in an external context that you don't want to be influenced by, then you don't allow yourself to be influenced by that said thing. So I just think as a whole, it's really important that we're aware of what we're putting into our minds. Because really, I think that in a physical context, that there's really just three layers. There's what you believe, then there's what you think, and then there's how you act. So I think that what you believe directly influences how you think, and how you think directly influences how you act. And then obviously how you act is what you appear as in the external world. So I really think that what we allow ourselves to be influenced by and what we allow ourselves to be exposed to, that could really influence how we think, which could then influence how we act. So, and I think that a lot of the times we could say to ourselves, because this is something that I've said to myself as well, that especially in the context of music, that, oh, I don't even really pay attention to the lyrics like that. Like, I really just like the way that it sounds, like the lyrics aren't too important. But I think regardless of that, almost that the intention behind those lyrics could still, influence our thoughts and influence the way that, ultimately the way that we act. So I just think that we should be conscious of the music that we listen to specifically. But then also I think the content that we watch as well, because, I understand that especially in like the modern social media climate and all of those things, it's almost that these platforms tell us what to watch, or they give us what to watch, and then they kind of see if we like that or if we don't like it, and then they base their algorithms off of that. But then I think it's really important that we maintain that choice in what we want to expose ourselves to, because like I said, how you think is how you act. So I think that if we allow ourselves to, if we allow our thoughts to be influenced by things that we don't directly control ourselves, then that'll ultimately impact the way that we act, which may not be in accordance with what we want to be. But that really just leads into my second point, that I think that, you know, if you want to get to a certain point, then you should expose yourself to things that will allow you to get there. And I say that in the sense of a quote that I heard once that said that if you hang around two smokers, then you'll be the third. And I think that what that quote just really means is that we're way more malleable and we're made way more influenced by the external world than we really think that we are. So I think that you could really take advantage of that so that you could get to where you want to go and that you could perpetuate your own growth into who you want to be by surrounding yourself by not only people that align with who you want to be, but then also content. Because I think that without even realizing it, there's a saying that you are the five people that you hang around the most with. But I think that without even realizing it, in these modern times, that a lot of the time, one of those five people could be someone that we don't even know personally. It could be content that we watch or something else that we consume. So I think that it's not even we are the five people that we hang around the most at this point. I mean, that's still true to an extent, but I also think it's we are the five things that we consume the most. And I mean that specifically in terms of content, not like food or like drinks or like anything like that. So I just think that we should really take advantage of that so that we can get to where we want to go. If you want to be a farmer, then I think it would be really beneficial and really helpful to getting there if you surround yourself by one other farmers. But if that's not possible, then you surround yourself with as much farm content as possible, and just surround yourself, make your external world align with your internal values. Because I think that a lot of the times, without even realizing it, we allow our internal world and our external world to clash when they don't have to. In the sense that, if you're trying to go on a diet, then why would you stay in a candy shop? It's almost like a direct clash of really who you want to be and then who you're facilitating yourself being. So I think that when those two things clash, then it just requires a lot more willpower out of yourself, which ultimately just makes it more difficult to get where you want to go to begin with. And that's really to say that I don't think it's impossible to get to a certain place with your external world being unaligned, but it's almost like, why would you do that? Because if you want to get to a certain place, then you almost need to accept that where you are now is not where you will be, if that's truly what you want. So then, if you want to be a farmer, then would you still be watching, I don't know, like, I'm not even like, I don't know, but like some content that's not really aligned with being a farmer. And that's not to say that we can't have multiple aspects of our identity and our personalities and ultimately who we want to be, but it's to say that, I think that what we allow ourselves to be influenced by should be matched by or should be paralleled with what we want to be. So, if you want to be a farmer and a comedian, then I think it would, in order to allow yourself to be on that path the easiest, it would just make sense to watch comedy and farming content and surround yourself with comedians and farmers. But, you know, I've been thinking about it a lot myself, and honestly, I'm not 100% sure how I not only feel, but how I really think about this. But then, even aside from the whole content and the modern digital world and all that stuff, I think that it's important that we also just surround ourselves with people that we want to be like. And I don't mean that in a sense that, oh, okay, so if I want to be rich, then I only surround myself with other rich people. But I think that it's true in the sense of if you want to get to a certain point, then you should surround yourself with people who also want to get to that certain point. And that's not to say that you should, cut off everyone else that you know, and you should, almost surround your whole life with that goal. But I think that to an extent, if you really want to get to that point, then it's easier if you did shape your external world around your internal values and around your internal desires. And, I've been just thinking about that a lot recently because I've been really focused on trying to be my best self and trying to be exactly who I want to be. So I really just started to be more conscious about what I'm putting into my own mind. And I found that even in a really short time, because I've been doing this for, maybe 1 or 2 months now, that it's had a really profound impact on not only the way that I think, but also the way that I act. And the biggest example I could give personally is that when I was this was about like 4 or 5 years ago when I was trying to lose weight. It was the easiest for me when I started, not solely, but I really started emphasizing, fitness content, and almost like I shaped my outside world with fitness, and then that really just shaped who I was internally. So it just made it a lot easier of a process as a whole. Because, in terms of the whole fitness world, because it's something I'm a bit knowledgeable in because it's my own experience, but one thing that they say is that if you don't want to eat junk food, then don't put any junk food in your house because you can't eat what's not there. So I think that to an extent that's true. I think our brains, you can't express what's not there. And the same way you can't express what's not there, you do express what is there, mentally. So I think that if we really want to think a certain way, if we really want to feel a certain way, that we should expose ourselves to that diet only, and we should really just focus on putting that into our mind, because then even without you really doing any conscious work, I think that eventually it'll bleed into your subconscious mind and then eventually into who you are as a person. So I just think that it's really important as a whole that we're just a lot more conscious of what we're allowing ourselves to be exposed to. And this kind of goes along with something else. I want to make another video on this, but it's really that it's okay to put yourself first. And I mean this in the context that, if you have people that surround you that you don't really want to be like, not to say that you can't love them, because I think that, you could have love for everybody, regardless of how positive of an influence they are in your life. But I think that if we do have people that are in our lives that we don't want to be like anymore, it's possible to love them from a distance. And it's possible to love them for who they were, not to who they are. In the sense that, some people are only meant to be in your life for a while. So I don't think that we should really limit the extent that our own growth can go to hang on to the things of the past. And when I say things, part of that I mean is relationships. And that's not to say that like you should only use people for your own gain, especially in your own personal growth, as well as your external growth. But I think that it's important that we're just mindful of who we hang around, because that's ultimately who we're going to be like. So I just think that it's important that we're conscious of these things, and that we really just pay attention to the choices that we make in terms of how we shape our external world. Because I think that our internal world shapes our external world just as much as our external world shapes our internal world. But ultimately, the change really just starts with your internal world, in the sense that you need to consciously decide who you want to be, and then consciously shape your external world to feed into that, so that it's really just like a positive feedback loop that'll allow you to be better and better as a person. Um, that's really just what I wanted to talk about today. I do have a Bible verse prepared that's kind of related to this topic. It's taken from Proverbs 4, verse 23, and it says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." So, I hope you took something from this video. Um, I hope you're just doing the best that you can with what you have, and you're really just trying to improve every day. Yeah, thank you.